Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sports Lab, where we talk everything and anything about sports. I am Legend, and with me, as always, my co-host, Coach Core. Guys, as you can see, we have a special guest. Today is going to be a little bit different. We have our first guest on the Sports Lab. He is a former Division I baseball player at Savannah State, the current head baseball coach at Santa Fe High School in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and the co-owner of ENG Baseball Academy, a 5,000 square foot indoor facility, travel baseball teams, and guys, they've already produced over and put 14 kids onto the next level. Coach, he's here to talk with us about the COVID-19, how it's affecting high school and his baseball academy. Coach Gene Farris, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be on here, talk a little bit about our boys at Santa Fe High and a little bit about what we do at ENG. And it's just a pleasure to have you guys here with me. And I'm glad to be here with you guys. It's good to catch up. We know each other for a long time.
Yeah, man. Nice to have you on the show. It's a pleasure to have you here. Let's kick it off right away. How has COVID affected your Santa Fe High School program? What do you guys have to do differently? Are they doing restrictions such as masks? Are you guys having the temperature checks? Are you guys social distancing? Give us the rundown on how COVID has affected your high school program.
Yeah, so I think we're in the same boat as a lot of people around the country, but our state has been really strict on the COVID protocols, which I definitely support. I think that it's been the smart thing to do, and our cases have been pretty low. But our New Mexico Activities Association has actually made it so our season's not till spring. So right now we're actually in a dead period, so we can't practice or anything. Obviously, when it hit, we were shut down completely for about 2 months. And then little by little, we were able to use the facility at ENG to get the kids going again. And of course, we have a lot of protocols to follow. Masks are mandatory. We do temperature checks. We do, 1-to-5 ratio of coach to kid. And we keep them all in small groups. We make everybody sign up online to be able to go. So it's been a lot of one-on-one kind of individual or small group skill development stuff. But it's been a challenge for sure. I think the biggest thing has been trying to keep the guys motivated because we don't have games to play. We're not allowed to play games in the state of New Mexico, at least. And then if you want to travel outside of the state, you got to do a 14-day quarantine when you come back. So it's just a lot of obstacles that make games really difficult. So, just getting them to really buy in and work on their own for sure, but just get a couple of their teammates and come and train and practice. But it's been a big difference, man. Usually we're on the field all summer and all spring, and this year we were inside. It's a lot different for sure.
No, for sure. Hey, so just to get on that a little bit, so you said, so NMA, so the New Mexico Association, they can't, so they're saying you guys can't practice at all. You guys can't do anything within Santa Fe High School, nothing, right? None of the players, was that what I heard?
So they do have protocols where you can practice. The NMAA is allowing them, but our school district, Santa Fe Public Schools, has decided, especially since our seasons are pushed back so far, that they're going to keep the facilities closed. So because of that, we can't use like the weight room or the baseball field or anything like that. So it's just been essentially, the NMA does allow for it, but they had like a 3 to 4 page, list of protocols you have to follow. And it was really, really difficult. So we kind of decided to just utilize ENG and allow the kids to go and work out on their own and not really be coach driven. That's where it's kind of been difficult, but they are allowing, like, there's some teams that are practicing, I'm sure, around the state. But I know that it's, for our district at least, they're not really allowing any of the students to use the facilities. So we're not even having in-person school the first 9 weeks for sure. We might have, not in-person school until next semester. So there's a lot of stuff that is kind of up in the air. So we're really not even using the facility. The kids aren't going there for school. So I think it'll probably be a little bit until we can start doing that again.
How are you guys keeping those players motivated, since they really aren't like in the high school program, they don't have to necessarily like practice and do that. Are these players staying motivated? Are they going to ENG?
So we first started, we are fortunate enough to have blast sensors. I don't know if you're familiar with blast motion. baseball. It's the sensor that goes in the bottom of your bat, and it tracks, bat speed, all the angles of the bat. We use those with everybody, including Santa Fe High. So basically 95% of our kids have a blast sensor. And the great part about that is when we first started, we could do remote training and remote. We actually had a competition where whoever took the most swings in a week would get some sort of prize. We used like booster clubs, and people just supported the program would buy, like a medicine ball for them to use at home, or like a tea or something. So we would use Blast. And what's cool about it is it tracks everything on their phones, and then it uploads to a cloud. So all of their swings, myself or the rest of the coaching staff could see. So we used that as a motivator first, and that was great because nobody could do anything but hit at home. So we called it our hit at home challenge. So that was helpful. We had my brother at Undisputed Fitness here in town. He runs a gym. Lorenzo Hernandez is his name. He has an app that he was letting our players use for free for workouts. They were like at home workouts you can do. So we were using those two things, and you could track all that on the app, so we can make sure that like people were actually doing stuff. Now, obviously, we couldn't we couldn't make any of it mandatory, but it was a good motivator for them to see like, okay, well, all my other teammates are putting in work, and I have a chance to win something that I could use at my house to get better. So that was really motivating. And then from here on, once we were able to open E&G again, we had them start coming in and using a lot of the same stuff, and we started doing live at bats. That's one of the big things that I think really gets them motivated, is because you get a little bit of competition again. We have a Rapsodo, which is basically a launch monitor. So when you hit the ball, it shows everything that happens on the field. So we use that, and we do live at bats, pitchers versus hitters, and so they kind of train during the week, and then at the end they have some live at bats, and that's been pretty well so far at motivating them. But I'm definitely hoping we get some games in, because eventually that's not going to work anymore.
Yeah, definitely, man. That technology, man, it's taken over. That's awesome. That's a pretty cool thing there. What did you say that was called? One more time for the listeners. What was that called?
We use Rapsodo. So Rapsodo is a company. They think it started with golf, similar with Blast Motion. A lot of this technology started in golf, and they basically make pitching and hitting monitors that if you're a pitcher and you have a pitching monitor, it shows like the release point, the spin axis, spin rate, vertical break, horizontal break of every pitch, right? Then it also, if you have the hitting version, which is what we have, it shows the spin, the exit velocity, obviously, the launch angle, the direction. It shows you the hot and cold zones you have in the strike zone. It does all kinds of cool stuff that you can see. So it's really helpful for us inside a facility to kind of, how it is. It's boring sometimes to hit in the cage, right? Everybody wants to hit on the field because you want to see that ball fly and all that. Well, when you can't, this is the next best thing, is to use that. To help buy in, and it helps with recruiting a lot too.
Man, no, that sounds awesome. That's really cool. So, before we run on to another question here, are you seeing a lot of kids? Are you guys able to do anything outside? So, like E&G, I know, are you guys just having to follow just state guidelines of distancing, social distancing? Is that all it is? The 6 feet, masks, and stuff like that. So you guys still maybe take ground balls outside or anything like that?
Yeah, so we can use outside. We do sometimes. Most of the time, we have a field at the facility. It's not the best field, and it's pretty small, but we can get some work in there. So we do that. The challenge with us using any of the public parks is because we have to rent them out, since we're a business. We have to rent them out for insurance purposes and things. So right now, they're not allowing anybody to rent permits out either. So we can't use the public parks, and we can't use Santa Fe High. So we've pretty much been stuck at the facility for the most part. The kids can go on their own, and they sneak off on their own a lot of times to the parks and do their own things, because that's allowed. But anything that we put together pretty much has to be on our property, because we can control all that. And then, of course, we have to stick real strict with like our social distancing, masks, hand sanitizer, temperatures when you come in. And then the biggest thing we do is we don't let groups get bigger than 5. And we try to keep all the groups the same. So that way, if there is anybody that gets sick, you're not spreading it to like 40 people. You're only getting, 2 or 3 people that were in your group, and it helps, kind of limit that kind of stuff. But there's definitely a lot that goes into it, a lot more than you usually would go in a normal day. I'm thinking about things that I never thought I would have to, but it's kind of the world we live in.
Yeah, exactly. Things are different now, and that's awesome that you guys are doing all this different stuff for players and limiting people to 5 like that. It's like a good way to keep contact tracing, so you're not spreading everything. It seems like you guys have
exactly.
good protocols over there at E&G to keep your players safe. But I got a huge question for you. I think this is a massive one. You know, last year, you guys didn't get to finish out your season, correct?
Yes, yeah, we only played 5 games.
So with that happening, you had these seniors, right? It was their last year. How did you get these guys to the next level for college baseball?
Well, the nice thing is you know, a lot of the stuff that the seniors did, they put themselves in place before the year, which is, you know, always great. You know, it's always tough when you count on that last year to try to generate some interest. So luckily, like a lot of the player that they wanted to be and wanted to showcase, they were that before. But it definitely hurt. I mean, specifically, there's 2 guys that were seniors. They were kind of on the fence about playing college baseball because you guys know how it is. You know, there might be some schools that you want to go to or that want you to go there, but you have to find the right fit, the right education, all that kind of stuff, right? And so they were kind of on the fence about wanting to go, and they were like, well, if I have a good year and, you know, I maybe get somebody else that's a little more interested, then I'll go, right? So it was unfortunate for them because, you know, they didn't get that chance to maybe have an opportunity. And they really lost their last year of baseball, which is, you know, it's just devastating for them. For, you know, the ones that are going on, I tell them all the time, I mean, you guys are the lucky ones. You get to keep going to play. But the ones that lost their last year of playing baseball, like it's devastating for them. And even the young guys too. I mean, some of those kids, like we played 1 JV game. So, I mean, we lost the whole year. All of our JV guys lost the whole year. So it was really hard, you know, trying to get them to the next, you know, just to keep going. But as far as our guys that did get to go to college, like they were fortunate that they had video and they had interest from people already before the season started. So that's the kind of nice thing about the way recruiting is now, is that a lot of it you can do online through video, especially with our technology. You can, you know, I can put a video of you, Conrad, hitting a ball 95 miles an hour, post it on Twitter on a Flat Ground, which is a great app. It's free, and it has like 30,000 followers, ton of them that are coaches, and people get scholarships off that, just like that. So that's the nice thing about this day and age, is that it's a lot easier for our guys to get seen, but it still is hard when you don't get to play because, you know, you guys have also been coaches too. You can't really get a full scope of a kid always just by video. Even if you have a ton of game video, you want to be able to see them a lot of times, you know. So it's still a challenge, but we only had 6 seniors this year, and only 3 of them ended up wanting to go and try to pursue playing college baseball. The other 3 kind of just went about their business. So it wasn't as big of a class, but it was definitely hard for that group.
Right on. So what about any kind of showcasing? Are they doing any kind of showcasing this summer? Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. Are they doing any kind of summer showcasing throughout this summer, this fall?
Yeah, so one of the challenges about being here in New Mexico is it's kind of frustrating because like Dallas and all of Texas is having a ton of showcases and tournaments. Arizona is having a ton of it because they're open. You know, both these states are open. So there was a ton. And I know like some of the baseball academies in Albuquerque and Rio Rancho, they went to several of them. It was a little harder for us to try to go to any of the out-of-state showcases, mostly because of the quarantine with having to come back for 14 days. It was something that we didn't really feel comfortable asking our people to do. So there was definitely opportunities, and there were some showcases, and a couple kids went on their own to go do it. But as far as New Mexico, there was nothing. They were supposed to have one this September, like 20th or something, but they just canceled it because, like I said, they're not allowing any competitions or anything this whole, you know, next till probably the spring here in New Mexico. At least that's the first hope, at least.
Yeah.
Crazy. So based kind of off of that, are you expecting to have a 2021 high school season?
You know, I think that I'm very hopeful that we will. You know, we have the benefit of time, but I also am a little concerned because virus is the first thing, and then even if we can play with that, it's going to be pretty logistically hard because our school moved all of the sports to spring. So, and that's never happened before, you know, as far as I know, football and basketball and everybody playing in the spring. I think that's going to be maybe the biggest challenge to come over, just because there's just so many things that could go wrong during those things. They staggered them. The seasons are short. Usually we get like 26 games. This year we're only getting like 20 this coming season. So they're trying to bunch everything in at the end of the spring. But I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely a little skeptical about how that's all going to work. But I'm hopeful. Like I said, if it works and we get to play, then I'll take it all day long.
So I got another one based kind of off of that. You know how they're all bunching all the seasons together. Are you going to lose players to football and other sports because you have football players that play baseball as well? How is that going to work? Are you in Santa Fe High, you guys don't have a huge amount of baseball players. Do you think you're going to lose players to other sports?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a possibility. It obviously already happens with basketball overlapping, our season. We generally have, the first month or so of the season, we don't really have everyone. It depends on the year. But I do think it will. What I'm concerned really is we have a player specifically that plays football, basketball, and baseball, right? And they staggered them to where the football season will start and end before basketball season and so forth, right? It's going to be segmented. But what I'm worried about is if you're a 3-sport athlete and you're going to play football and then basketball and then baseball all in a 4-month period, a whole season, that seems like it's going to be really hard to manage injuries and to keep the kids healthy from that. So I'm more concerned from that perspective where I'm like, man, I understand you want to play all the sports, but it might be hard. You're not going to have the spread out time, the time to kind of rest in between maybe that you would before,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no doubt. It's just something that everybody's going to have to adapt. I think day by day. I think even like you said, you're expecting a 2021 season, but who knows, right? I think most of the football coaches and basketball coaches were expecting their seasons to be on schedule, and it seems like that's just not happening. So I think as listening to you, Coach, it seems like you're doing awesome, man. It seems like you're keeping your players safe, and that's always the number one thing. I know as much as these kids want to get out there and play and be on the field, man, it's a tough decision to make, and not just for you, but everybody, parents, and it's a tough situation. But man, I commend you for doing such a good job. Seems like you have some good implements in place to keep these guys safe. So why don't we go into a little bit of your players, your student athletes? How are they reacting to this whole situation, Coach Ian? Are they, no school, no sports? How are they acting right now? Are you seeing a notice in their day-to-day appearance, their activities? Are you seeing any kind of change in them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest change is there's not as much structure as there was to their lives before. I think especially the kids that are athletes that play for us and stuff, they're used to pretty much everything being scheduled. They have their classes, they have practice, they have their games, and then for a while there, it just kind of went all up in the air. And I mean, even for me, when we were shut down for 2 months when it first hit, I didn't know what to do with it myself, because I had never had that long of a time, probably ever. Because you guys know as players too, you pretty much never have time off. If you're if you're one of the elite high school players or you go to play college, you basically never have time off from baseball ever. Maybe a week the whole year, And as a coach, it's probably even worse because you have so much else that goes into it. So I think it's hard, and you definitely see kids probably bored and getting into things they're not supposed to, losing a little bit of the motivation that they had before. I mean, I've seen this a lot lately, especially because we've had some tragic deaths the last few months here in Santa Fe. We've had 4 teenagers shot and killed. And I think a lot of people are starting to kind of put it together man, these kids don't have stuff going on. Things are canceled. They're not in class. They're not in school. So, they just have a lot more opportunities to get in trouble. And it definitely seems, at least, I know we're in the middle of it, so sometimes it can feel heightened. It definitely seems like it's having a negative effect on them just because it's just not what they're used to, not what any of us are used to.
Yeah, make a very, very valid point. No one's used to this at all. Everyone, they need that structure in their lives. Like you said, you're used to doing this, going to class, going to practice, doing your homework, waking up, going to the weight room. Yeah, very, very valid point. I want to hear more about ENG, your program, and what your goal is with these players. How old do you start off, and how young are these players? What's your goal?
Yeah, so ENG Baseball Academy, we started it in 2015, so about 5 years ago. And me and my business partner, he's a co-owner, George Delos, we played together You guys have met him. We played in college together. He's from Dallas, Texas. And so me and him basically in 2015 decided to start a program, really, giving lessons and training mostly, but just trying. Our main goal has always been to try to raise the level of competition and the level of baseball in Santa Fe. And you guys know, because you're born and raised there, it's really hard for us to always have the resources or the places to go to actually get better at baseball. Albuquerque blows us away in about every single category, and it's crazy because a lot of people that aren't from New Mexico don't realize that Albuquerque is like a really big hotbed for baseball. And if you want any evidence of that, you can say, well, Mitch Garver, right? He's the catcher for the Twins. Alex Bregman, he's the third baseman for the Astros, right? We have Swihart, who was a first-round pick. I think he was with the Diamondbacks now. Giles, who's all these guys me and Conrad played against. It could go on and on. These are all guys that are in the MLB like right now. So it kind of shows how much out of just Albuquerque, there's a lot of competition. And part of it is their youth programs, and their youth baseball it's just unreal. You have a ton of participation and a ton of high-level teams from the ages of 18 all the way down to like 8 and 10-year-olds, right? Whereas in Santa Fe, it's kind of a whole different story. We tend to have more rec-focused leagues here, and we have a lot more kind of a less serious, less dedicated vibe to our baseball, meaning that a lot of the kids are used to playing in a little league or a double ABC or some local program that maybe lasts like 3 months, and then they don't play baseball again the rest of the year. They move on to whatever. So our first goal was to try to address that, try to get players to understand that we need to raise the level of competition. We need to be learned and taught the right things. We need to be able to have a certain level of competitiveness to be able to get there. And that was our first goal. And then it's kind of just expanded since then. We started on parks, just giving lessons with a bucket of balls. And then we grew to a small facility that was like in a garage, basically. And we just used one net and one, mound, and that was it. And then we had our first travel teams. And then in 5 years, we have about 13 or 14 teams every year that we run from age 18 all the way down to 8. We do training programs, so like development camps, lessons, memberships, all kinds of different things that basically are just focused mostly on development. I think a big thing that's wrong sometimes in baseball is we spend so much time playing so many games and not enough time building the skills that you need. And so we spend a lot of our time focusing on the skills that we know are going to help them be baseball players and be successful at whatever level that they play. And then at the same time, anytime we're coaching, we understand that a lot of these lessons they learn go way beyond the baseball field too, So I think that having, them really understand that, like, if we want to be good at something, I have to know what it is that I need to be good at. I have to have some way that I can get better at it, and I have to have a plan, and then I have to have some way of knowing whether I can or I actually am doing that. And so our goal was kind of shifted from just trying to get Santa Fe area baseball better to any player that comes to us, elevating them in some way. If that means that they're already an all-star, taking them to another level. If that means that they've never played before and they're 7 years old and they're just trying to get a foundation of how to play the game and do it the right way, it doesn't matter what level or what age they are, we're trying to make every player better. And, I think that's really our goal that has been our focus the last few years. And it's always expanding, man. It always is.
Man, no, hey, E&G, man, first time I heard that you guys were doing that, I was excited to see that in Santa Fe, and that was awesome. It kind of goes back to that whole thing you just said, COVID-19, seeing these kids, the effect it's taking on just not being out there and just this little bit of time. But, when these kids have another academy, whether it's baseball, volleyball, basketball, whatever it is, when it's another opportunity to keep them off the streets, and that's always awesome. So, man, I just thank you for doing that. And you know what? You don't understand how many kids that you are keeping off the streets, that you are, giving them life lessons, like you said. And so thank you for that. Like I said, I'm from Santa Fe, so I love to see Santa Fe culture, sports culture grow and continue to grow. And you're just helped doing that. So, you guys continue, man, to just keep kicking butt and keep going, man. And I know it's hard sometimes, and sometimes you wake up and you're just like, man, what am I doing? But keep doing it, man. You're doing an awesome job. You and George are really doing a great job, man.
Thanks. I appreciate it. We have a bunch of great kids, and that's the great part about it is I always tell them I have the best job because every kid that comes to us wants to learn and wants to get better, and they're all good kids. And you couldn't ask for anything else, And so it's just great to be around, great environment, and all the coaches that help us. Like I said, we have a lot of teams, a lot of programs. So it's really a collective effort. So we appreciate it. And I definitely know that I couldn't do it by myself. So I'm very thankful for all them. And, it's been really fun. It's been a challenge, like you said, but it's been really fun. And I'm really hoping that in another 4 or 5 years, Santa Fe is not looked at as this, oh, well, they can't really play baseball, or it's like a rec league place, like they were on that same kind of level with those guys, and we're starting to get there.
Oh, yeah, man. It sounds like you guys just are killing it over there, and you guys are just trending up from where you started to where you're at now. It's just total different. You guys are on your way up, and you guys are killing it over there. I think it's time to wrap it up, Ian. It's been a pleasure to have you on our show, man. It's great talking to you, talking sports, talking baseball, talking your 2 programs, man. I wish you the best of luck in your high school season, and I wish you the best of luck at E&G Academy, bro. Everything that you're doing it's great, man. You're doing great things for kids, and couldn't be more proud of you, man. And I'm just so excited to see where you guys go. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show, man.
Thanks, guys. It's been awesome being on here for sure. This is great. You guys are doing a great thing.
Hey, thanks again, Ian. Hey, guys, listen up. Hey, if you have not yet liked, follow, subscribe to us, the Sports Lab, guys, where we talk everything and anything about sports. We got the MLB 2020 season still rocking, still kicking, and a lot of exciting things. We got NBA playoff getting ready to roll on here, so we got a lot to talk about. But again, thank you, Coach Ian, for joining us. A lot of great questions, a lot of great answers from you. So thank you very much. Thank you. Our followers are going to love that. Until next time, the Sports Lab.
Sports Lab, baby. Out.